truth be told, every champion has felt it. Every president has felt it. Every king has felt it. Every lion has felt it. Every winner has felt it. Every soldier has felt it. Every victorious person has felt it. The urge to quit.
Crossroads, life's tolls, life goes. I gotta win. W my lockdown. You can't rewind.
Hey, this is your host, Sonia, with the Remember Who You Are 222 podcast. I have my guest, Bethany, here with us today. How are you doing today, Bethany?
Girl, I am doing good. I love that intro. I was back here.
Yeah. That was me before I had my son, but I still have it, you know.
Yeah, girl. Shoot, I know who to call if I get stuck in some mud. I'm calling you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm super excited for this conversation today. Just to tell you a little bit about Bethany. So she's the founder of Be Limitless Now, a transformational movement guiding people from grief into growth and gratefulness after the loss of her only child. Am I saying this right? Cabin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She discovered that everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, and that grief can be the portal to awakening. So today she's a speaker, author, and co-host of the Holy Shift Balls podcast, helping others step into heart-centered awareness and frequency mastery. I love this. All right. So why don't you tell our listeners basically what your story is and how you came into doing what you do now? I know it's pretty obvious with that.
Yeah.
With the loss of your son, but yeah, go ahead and.
Okay. Well, before this experience, I had absolutely zero awareness about energy, frequency, and vibration. My son, Kevin, is an absolute brilliant genius. He was scored really high on his ACT, and the military came to him asking him to test for the ASVAB, and he scored the top 1% of the top 1%, and they came to him with a contract of nuclear physicist, and he said, nope, I'm going to decline that, Mom. If they would have came to me as astrophysicist, I might have taken it. But I'll back you up on it was a November day in 2020, and I'm working a little job, and it's a third shift job. And one day my manager comes to me and she's like, Bethany, I need you to clock out. I was like, why? She's like, it's like 2:30 in the morning. I was like, yeah, why am I clocking out? She's like, well, you got people out in the parking lot that need to speak to you. I was like, what? It's 2:30 in the morning. There ain't nobody out in the parking lot. So I clocked out, and when I did, I popped the doors open, and who do I see? I see every single one of my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my brother, sister-in-law. And so I walk up to them, and my mom told me to sit down in the car, that she needed to tell me something. And, as I'm telling you this, and when I talk to this about anybody, it's like a lucid screen pops down, and I can see exactly the energy, the frequency of this experience. Because when my mom looked at me and told me, said, Bethany, Kevin's been killed tonight. A drunk driver crossed over into his center lane, hitting him head on, killing him instantly. Girl, when I tell you, I let out a scream so foreign to my body, into my being, that I collapsed on the floor. And, I was just beyond devastation. And the first thing I could think about is, oh my God, I failed. I have failed to protect him as a mother. I blamed myself. The grief was just shattering. But something began to start to happen. The day of the funeral, I'm in his bedroom, and I asked God, I said, I'm on my knees, and I asked God, I said, God, please, can you give me some kind of sign that Kevin's okay, that everything's going to be okay? And I didn't realize how big this sign was till a little bit later in my healing journey. And so I'm walking away from the burial, and it's a cloudy day. And all of a sudden, the clouds parted, and a rainbow pops through. There was my son. There was my, and I fell to my knees, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" But that next year, that first year was an absolute blur to me. I was just beyond devastated. My son rode street bikes, and I ride street bikes. And I remember I would get on my son's street bike, I'd put his helmet on, and I thought, girl, it would be easier for me to take this motorcycle to 130 miles an hour and wrap myself around a tree than it would be to have to wake up another day without my baby. And I meant that. I mean, that's where I was, in my thoughts. But something interesting started to happen in that year. I started to research NDEs, near death experiences. And what these people were saying, what they were experiencing when they were out of the body, was blowing me away. I was blown away. And so I just started almost obsessing, this information. But I also got the download to start writing down. So I started to write all of these thoughts, feelings, and emotions down. And it's interesting that just up until a few months ago, I would go back and read that journal. And the information that I was receiving was blowing me away. And so, just amazing that, I was able to receive those downloads. But here's where it starts to get in. Here's where it starts to get interesting.
Yeah.
So one day I'm sitting on my couch, and I was like, man, I need to go get in the shower. So I go back to my bathroom, and I pull back my shower curtain. Girl, I look down, and inside of my tub, I look down, and there's coins inside of my tub. And I was like, well, that's weird. So I pick up a coin, I pick it up, and I'm like, it has his death year on it, 2020. I was like, I just found it so odd because I don't shower with coins. I don't have them in my hands. I don't have them in my pockets. But I wasn't able to put it together then. So it was like, a few days had passed, and I get up out of bed one morning, and I make my bed as I normally do, and that night I go get in the bed, I pull my sheets back, and what do I find inside of my sheets? Coins. And I was like, this is crazy. This is strange. Well, 2 weeks had passed, and I vacuum my whole living room floor, my whole house. I go put the vacuum cleaner up, and I come back into my living room, and what do I find on my freshly vacuumed floors? You got it, coins.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Now these coins were not just there. I just vacuumed.
Yeah, I just vacuumed.
And so I pick it up, and I look at one of these coins, and it had my son's birth year on it, 2000. And I can no longer ignore these signs. So I pick up a phone, and I call my mom, and I was like, Mom, something's going on. I am finding these coins all over my house. She said, oh my goodness, Bethany. Your father and we are finding coins all over our house too. And I was like, what? I was like, what? She said, yeah, I think it's Kevin. I think he's trying to communicate with us. I said, well, I hung up my phone, girl. I ran out onto my deck, and I said, hey, Kevin. Hey, buddy, if this is you, man, can you show up for me like a blue jay or a red bird? Girl, the very next day, everywhere I turned, there was a blue jay or a cardinal. Everywhere I turned. Now, and stalking me. Now, I'm serious. I mean, that came out of nowhere. I mean, they were there. And I said, oh, my goodness. This boy's communicating with me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had that awareness, I got excited. I was like, oh my gosh. Well, he came to me in a dream, and he said, Mom, he said, he calls his body. He said, Mom, his concrete shoes. He said, because the body's so dense. He said, but Mom, when I was in my body, he said, you and I have vibrated on the same frequency, pretty much the same one that you and I are on right here in the physical body. He said, but Mom, when I crossed over and I returned back into energy, frequency, vibration, I rose in frequency. He said, but Mom, see, you dropped because you were in grief, sorrow, pain, blame, shame, guilt. He said, do you see how far that distance is to communicate? He said, Mom, that's not a thing. And I was like, what? What? So, of course, I had to go research what in the world he's talking about.
Yeah.
So I did. I went and I found an emotional frequency chart.
Oh.
So you mean to tell me grief vibrates at 75 hertz? Sorrow vibrates at 50 hertz. Guess where death vibrates? 0 hertz. So you mean to tell me when I am choosing to think, feel, and believe grief and sorrow and hurt, I am vibrating right next to death, right next to it. Now, what I have found is that we all have an electromagnetic field that precedes us through 6 to 8 feet out, 360 degrees around us. So when you are choosing those grief and sorrow, your electromagnetic field collapses in on you, which then you'll experience fight or flight. The body will go into fight or flight. And guess what happens when you do that enough? When you choose those lower frequencies, you will find dis-ease showing up. So you mean to tell me when I am choosing these, number one, I am blocking off all communications with the higher frequencies, the higher beings, the higher intelligence. And I am absolutely putting my body into fight or flight, never in rest and repair. And what is that doing for me? Nothing. It is absolutely going to bring dis-ease to me. Now, I had to take a conscious look at myself and say, okay, what am I doing? What am I choosing for myself? Am I, for me as Kevin's mom, I had to make a conscious decision. How can I honor my child the most? And for me, I chose to honor his legacy. And what better way could I do that than to heal myself and thrive and vibe so I can have that higher communication with him? And what does that look like? Yeah. So if the lower, frequencies of grief, sorrow, fear, anger, blame, shame, hurt, less than, not enough, if that's keeping me blocked from him, well, what do I have to choose to be able to have that communication? Love, joy, excitement, gratefulness. Yeah, that. So and then what that does to your electromagnetic field, that expands out. Allowing you to feel within the body rest and repair. Yeah.
I love how excited you are about it, because it's definitely a lot of this stuff that you're saying is all the stuff that I've studied and kind of how I came into my spirituality. Because I went like the science route. I was looking for the truth, and I ended up putting myself into a meditative state that put me in like a pretty big spiritual high for a couple months. And I was able to see like the higher perception. I was able to see like how we were all connected. Like it was crazy. I was getting downloads of like speeches to give to, I was working at the Wounded Warriors at the time. And so I was giving speeches to the Wounded Warriors. I was seeing like the ripple effects, and like, it was just it was crazy how it was happening. And then I got into watching a lot of the near-death experiences and listening to them. And I was like, wait, so the experience I had when I went into that meditative state was similar to some of the near-death experiences, not everything, but what I did feel in my meditative state was I was in the light of source, and I felt the unconditional love of what it felt like. And I was just like, wow, like this is crazy. And it was like it was showing me like how it feels to be in that, that high vibrational feeling. But after a couple months, I came back down, and I was thinking I did something wrong, but I just needed to like integrate everything. And
Yes.
so, yeah, so I basically like everything you're saying like makes complete sense to me.
You know, and that's the thing is that energy, we're all energy beings with a
Mhm,
body. You know,
mhm,
when we have death, that's only shedding the body, the shell,
mhm.
not the being. So, you know, it's so interesting that for me, I started to choose, you know, hi. And, you know, I started to choose, okay, what way can I connect with myself? I had to take a really deep dive into my thought process. How many of us are running around here allowing our minds to just run
Mhm.
free?
Run
Woo!
the show.
You
Yeah.
know, and that is a frequency all in its own.
Mhm,
Because your mental body is your antenna. This is what you're putting out into the field, into the quantum
mhm,
field. And here,
mhm,
guess what? Your heart is your magnetic. This is what is pulling the experience to you. So I
mhm,
had to really take a deep dive, and I do this with my clients. All right, what are we thinking? What are we doing? What are we choosing?
mhm.
So yeah, you know, but isn't it interesting that we weren't taught any of this? We
Yeah.
weren't taught
None of
about
it.
energy, frequency, vibration, that your thoughts, you know, that and your words are spelling words, and
Mhm.
what in a frequency and a vibration when you speak,
When you
and
speak,
what
yeah.
does speaking do to other beings' bodies?
Right. Yeah, I've had to really become conscious about how because I dealt with a lot of stuff when it comes to my son's father, and so I start watching how I was even speaking about him, because even if it was true, I realized the negative, the negative speech was causing him to do more like worse things.
Mhm.
And then I was like, wow. So then once I started consciously seeing, like when I started speaking better about him, he wasn't doing the same things he was doing before. And so I was like, wow, I'm really creating
Yeah, yeah.
with
But
my
but here's the
words
thing,
and how I feel about it.
you know, here's another thing that my teams, my galactics, my angelics, my indigenous.
Baby, come on. Baby, you gotta let mommy do this work.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what all of my teams came in and taught me that, you know,
Mhm.
like like I said at the beginning of this is all energy, frequency, and vibration. So what happens when, okay, I'm gonna give you a story. So last year I went to Florida for and had down with my family. And so the first 3 days we're all down there. We never left the house. We were doing the whole, you know, fishing, had a beach house, all that stuff. On that third day, my aunt looked at me. She said, Bethany, I need some hamburger buns. I said, oh, okay. So here I go. I'm going to the store to get some hamburger buns. I am so excited because I
Mhm.
know exactly what this potato salad's fixing to taste like. I know what these
Mhm.
burgers, and you know, I'm excited. But
Mhm.
so when I get to the store, I pull in and nobody's at the store, and I'm like, yes, girl. I get my buggy and I'm starting to push my buggy, and I get to the bread aisle, and girl, when I get to the bread aisle, I look. And now there is
Come on,
15
baby.
people.
Just let mommy do this work.
He's not having it. He's like,
Yeah.
nope,
Some days he lets me, and some days it's just like
nope. He's like,
he's
no,
got to be the life of the party.
yes, yes, I get it. I get it, boo. But, you know, so it's so interesting because I get to the bread aisle and now there's 15 people
Mhm.
that are now in the bread
Mhm.
aisle. Now, remind you, there was nobody at the store. So, you know, when I get my buggy and I'm pushing down the bread aisle, get my hamburger buns. Well, guess what? Now I've got to
Yeah.
shimmy and shake next to these 15
Baby, calm down, baby.
next to these 15 people. And guess what? Guess what they meet before they meet Bethany, the body?
Yeah.
They meet my electromagnetic field. So what happens? what
I'm sorry.
happens when what happens when I meet, negative Nancy, train wreck Thomas, Debbie Downer, that energetic signature will then jump off into my field, and I will start picking up that energy and running that thought process, running the emotions as if they are my own, and they're not. I picked them up from other people, places,
Mm,
pets, problems, and objects.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I realized. Because I always did, yeah, I always did that. I always, took on other people's emotions. Come on, baby. Baby, just relax. Okay.
He's not happy. He's like, no.
Yeah, like today, his energy
Yes.
is high.
Yeah. Yeah, girl. Yeah. Well,
but but yeah, no, it's definitely like been a process, like just like me shedding a lot of my stuff, just programming and doing a lot of that inner work, and then even putting myself around people. It was like I didn't even have a choice because I have to co-parent. And so there was a lot of things that forced me to kind of like, okay, I have to figure this thing out, or I'm gonna be
right. Well,
causing all kinds of
right.
things for myself. But
Well, like attracts like. So
Mhm.
whatever you are, whatever energy, whatever frequency you are choosing to think, feel, and believe, guess what? You're going to attract that right back to you. So if you're in grief, hurt, blame, shame, all of that, guess what? You're only attracting more of that to you.
Mhm.
And at what point is a person, do you say, you know what? I am not enjoying feeling those lower frequency vibrations. I'm going to choose something different for myself. And, if you want to see a change, you must be the change.
Mhm.
And so what does that look like? So, yeah, it's huge, huge for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey just from leaving the situation. My son's only 3 years old, but I left when he was like 11 months old.
Uh huh.
And so I know what attracted him to me in the beginning was me. It was definitely my beliefs about myself and my. I thought I had all this confidence because I was in the Marine Corps. I was doing all this like bodybuilding and I was, being that strong woman, but I was like masking all the things underneath that was basically the lack of self-worth that I
Yep.
had because I grew up with basically it was like an emotionally neglectful family, really abusive mother. So I realized after that relationship that I hadn't healed from a lot of my mother wounds. So
And it's so interesting because, I was talking with some of my clients yesterday. And our sun is ejecting mass quantities of plasma light right now, solar flares. And also we had a huge moon, a full moon last night, and I'm going
mhm,
to tell you what, the energy was wonky as I mean, and you feel like you're getting bombarded with everything, and then you look around and you see all the collapsing of systems, programs, which is a good thing because when something falls, we got to rebuild up, right?
mhm,
So it's just interesting. But what is that with everything going on and trying to feel and heal? I have found for myself when all of this wonkiness is going on around me, the one thing that I know how to get back into my field, into my frequency, into my choice, into what I am choosing to experience is I go and I put my feet right off into Mother Earth and I sit out there
mhm,
and I discharge that frequency off of me. I discharge that energy and I start to just be present,
mhm,
just be present and with everything, not having to
mhm,
change anything, just
mhm,
allowing and accepting for whatever shows up is
mhm,
exactly what I am going to experience, and being okay with just
mhm,
that. without having the need to change, fix, or I say it's an issue. Just being
Right.
accepting into feeling it and healing it all.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. That's definitely something I do a lot. I take my son to the beach all the time, and I'll just put my feet, put my
Yeah.
feet in the sand, and I can literally feel the difference as soon as I put my feet in. It's like, whew, like you feel that
Yes. I
energy
just got
going.
I just got back from 3 weeks in Florida, and oh my gosh, absolutely amazing. Just the whole frequency of the body of water, the oceans. They have codes
Mhm,
and all kinds of frequencies
mhm,
within that, with the beings that are in that too. And then just to feel all of that power, and then the moon, and then the animal. It's just
mhm.
amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
And being connected with God's creation, or
Yeah.
whatever, insert whatever label there you like.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever people want to call it,
Yeah.
God, the universe, source.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like with me this year, I had Mother's Day came around, and I could have totally spun out and been like, oh my God, I could have totally
Mhm,
chose that for myself, but I didn't. I said, man, Kevin, boy, I sure do need you to show up and show out for mom today. And as I'm
mhm,
walking out of my garage, I walk out, and lo and behold, here comes this beautiful blue jay and flies
mhm,
3 feet into my field. 3 feet, and
mhm,
it sits there. Now, if that bird was not there to share its frequency of love, compassion, joy, it would have landed in some other yard, on some other
mhm,
fence, in some other tree. And no, that was my gift. That was and I
mhm,
get so excited right here, right now,
mhm.
because I still get to experience that gift all
Mhm.
throughout the year. And that,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge. It's
Yeah.
huge
I love
because,
that.
yeah, and I truly, what I have found is that when we choose grief and hurt, you're blocking and stopping yourself from experiencing connection and communication with your crossed over loved ones. Because what
Mhm,
if it's not about the death? What if it's about finding a new way to connect?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Yeah.
it's like, I remember for so long, just in my childhood, I always felt so alone and just in that little depressive state. But I see now, like I've even brought myself to tears thinking like, wow, like I was never alone this whole time.
No, you
And
have so many beings that are here, especially right here, right now, that are here to help facilitate, to bring in the new um, um, codes for transformation. And I mean, healing's not always fun. It sucks. I
Mhm.
mean, it can be like, damn, like I
Yeah,
feel like I'm pulling a damn, concrete block around sometimes, but that's okay.
yeah.
That's okay, because I
Mhm,
choose to believe that I come here to know thyself. And what better
mhm,
way to know thyself than to know every thought, every
mhm,
emotion, every feeling, every excitement,
mhm,
every joy, and just sitting in it, to have a
mhm.
human experience of emotion, energy,
Right.
emotion. Yeah.
Right. And that has been my I guess most recent realization after going through all this healing.
Hmm.
Basically I was just like the most important person to get to know is yourself. And
I mean,
just to sit with
you
yourself.
can't receive what you are not. So
Mhm.
if you truly do not love yourself, how can you receive it from somebody else or give it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I have found, is stepping into the love in each present moment. That takes steady conscious awareness to be able
Mhm.
to actively choose that, to
Right.
feel that, to think that, to be that. I mean, and yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
that's what I'm going to attract back to me.
Right. No, I was in a situation pretty recently. I want to say it was like a month ago. But it was I guess it was my son's father's effort in trying to get to me, which I allowed it to, even though I knew I knew what he was doing. Um, and he uses my son to get to me. So
Hmm.
I saw after the fact, after I cried about it and asked myself, like, what is this trying to teach me? What do I need to get from this? I was actually woken up at like 3 a.m. and I felt the presence. I could feel the loving presence, and I saw the visions of like, it's basically upgrades from this situation. And I saw that I shouldn't have even gone to the hospital. I should have just trusted and just been like, I trust that you can take good care of our son, instead of going in fear and going all the way to the hospital. And then a whole thing happened at the hospital because I went.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you said that about it being, I was awoken at 3:33 one morning and was told to go outside. And I'm like, what? Go outside? 3:33. All right. So here I go, girl. Here I go. I've got my pajamas on. I ain't got no socks on. I'm sitting out there, and I'm just in the moment of all of the stars and the lake, and I hear the crickets and the frogs, and I was just absolutely so grateful to just be out there, in it. Well, girl, all of a sudden this golden orbed being flies down the whole 13-acre lake, flies all the way down it, comes back up it, and goes up. And if I hadn't seen that for my own eyes, I'd have told you you've lost your rabbit ass mind. But and in that moment, I felt the frequency of love that I have never felt before in my life. And that right there, that did something that upgraded my body, my awareness, and my reality. When I had that encounter, for sure.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Even just to be on this journey and be aware of it.
And it's just like, how are people not choosing, consciousness and choosing to do the work right now? I mean, for me, it feels like, even being conscious and aware, it feels like trying to win a one-legged ass kicking contest out here right now.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. I'm serious. I'm like, but it's intense. It is.
Yeah, it is intense. It's like things still happen. It's just choosing differently.
Yes.
When those things happen.
That's the thing, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. If you want to really do something different, to have a different outcome, to have to be, experience limitless possibilities, you have to choose something different in each now moment. And that takes awareness. And are you reacting or are you responding? And what's the difference? Reacting is what you've always done. That's just, he pissed me off and I'm just going to do it like, he's an ass, or are you going to respond and choose something differently? You know what? They may be mean to me right now, but I'm going to choose love, and I'm going to, do something differently so I can have a different outcome come back to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah. All right. And I literally started seeing too, like how important our intentions are, because we could be unconsciously doing things from ill intentions. Like even when me and his father were going back and forth, it was like I knew I started to have to have self-love. So I was, setting boundaries, doing all these things. But then some of the stuff started to become tit for tat type of thing. And so I was like, okay, I need to bring myself out of that and just set the intention that everything I do, even if it's a boundary of some sort, is out of love and not out of any type of revenge or anything.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring that up, because I've had to set some boundaries here lately with someone. And you know what? An unhealed version person that's unable to acknowledge and they're always going to run, either abandon or make you wrong. And so it's very interesting that you just brought that up, because that's what I'm experiencing in my reality right now. And it's it's difficult, but
Mhm.
when you know thyself and you stand true to what it is that you're doing, your healing journey, your heart,
Mhm.
your path, your joy, that you're not willing to negotiate that with anybody. Your
Mhm.
peace is your, is your home. And for
Yeah.
me, I have worked so hard to get to where I'm at that I'm not willing
Right.
to negotiate any of that for anybody for nothing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the thing is, I noticed myself after that incident happened, I was in a low vibration for a couple weeks, and I
Hmm.
could feel the alcohol craving starting to come back, and I was
Hmm.
like, "Wait, what is well, I thought I got rid of these." And so I started to realize it was, yeah, it was me talking about what he did and putting myself in that frequency.
Yeah.
And so I literally saw it and was like, okay, like change that. And then as soon as I switched how I was talking to him about or talking about him to people,
Hmm.
um, my frequency came back up.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah, and that's the thing, when we take a look at the limiting beliefs,
Mhm,
what it is that you have spinning in your field. I mean, because a lot of us have had, like forever words, forever and always, where you're always remember and never forget in all
mhm,
space, place, time, and dimension. And they so it's so interesting that you brought that up too.
mhm,
Just taking a awareness of what it is in your field and what it is you
mhm.
choose to believe, and what you're willing to negotiate with and what you're not. Your
Right.
peace is your powerhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
girl.
Being able to be in that higher vibration, and
Yes.
it's like once you feel it, you don't want to go back down.
No, yeah, and that's the thing that I was talking with my mentor, Susan Schatzer. I was like, after do this journey and where I'm at now and what in the higher realms and in the expansion, do you for me to go back into the grief, hurt, blame, that
Mhm,
sounds so freaking hard. I mean, so energetically to have to drop my frequency that much to try to mourn and hurt.
mhm,
Yeah, no, 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 I cannot do that.
mhm,
But it's interesting because Kevin brought to me one day, he was like, Mom, he was like, uh go look up Disney movies. And I was like, what are you talking about? So isn't it interesting that we were programmed and taught grief, sorrow, pain, blame, shame, less than,
mhm,
not enough, as children? And isn't it interesting that children from the ages of 0 to 7 intake information through not of logic, but of
mhm,
vision, audio on repetition to get an emotion?
mhm.
Like how I explain it, here's my vape. We would tell them, tell these children, this is pink. They get the visual, the pink audio.
Mhm.
Good girl, good boy, yay. And then, you know,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So it's so interesting that guess what? Guess how we were programmed as
Mhm.
children and still to this day in our adults. Get Guess how you think they could have done it? Through a television. It's telling
Mhm.
you a vision through visual and audio on repetition to get a emotion.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, telling you a vision. So I went and looked, and guess how many of the Disney Pixar holiday movies that I sat down and watched when I was a child from 0 to 7? I sat my son down at the time of 0 to 7, and all of these are on a energetic frequency of lower aspects of grief, sorrow, pain, blame, shame, all the things.
Mm.
Lion King. Lion King, poor Mufasa and Simba. Simba wasn't good enough. He got kicked out. His dad was killed. There's grief, sorrow,
Yeah.
pain. Dumbo was,
It's
separated from
sad.
his mom. Grief, pain, blame,
Bambi.
shame. Bambi,
Mhm.
Finding Nemo, Frozen, Brother Bear. I mean, Cinderella,
Mm.
Little Mermaid. I can go on and on and on and on. And that's how they continue to keep us in these lower frequencies
Lower
through the
vibrations.
television and through music. I mean, because our bodies respond to that frequency, putting our bodies into fight or flight, never in rest and repair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huge, huge.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that because I definitely was watching Lion King and all those
Yeah.
Disney movies.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's how they're. Yeah, it's very interesting when I started to deep dive. This reality is just it's inverted. It feels like things are not as they appear, and
come
until you
here, baby.
start, until you start, doing the research, it'll blow your mind. Blow your
Yeah,
mind.
that is that is pretty interesting. I'm just thinking about the stuff that my son watches, but he watches a lot of when he does watch TV, it's like on YouTube, and
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like songs like ABCs, just like
Yeah.
like all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
For now. I know
Well,
as he gets older, he's gonna want to watch other things, but
yeah.
I do like to take him outside and just be outside in nature and stuff. But
For sure, girl. For sure. For sure. Well, I've loved this conversation today. Thank you so much for having me on.
yeah, thank you for coming. It was definitely a great conversation. And I love your outlook on it because it's like I felt like for me, who like somebody who hasn't lost a child yet, it's hard to speak to people who have and just tell them like, oh, like don't worry, that you can still contact your child, type of thing.
But and the thing is that we've all have grieved something: a job, a husband,
Mhm.
a marriage, a finances, a pet, a parent,
Mhm.
a relationship. So grief, on a frequency level, it doesn't have to be through death. It can be,
Mhm.
the loss of all of the ones I just listed, and to
Mhm.
really take a step into what it is you're choosing to think, feel, and believe about yourself is if you're choosing to have transformation and you're not excited about what you're experiencing, take a different choice.
Mhm.
I've got so many clients, and best way for anybody to get a hold of me would be to go. My one thing I can give, the most beneficial thing I can give is my time.
Mhm.
And, they can go to my website at Be Limitless Now, BEE Limitless Now, and book a free call. And we'll go in and see what kind of energetic tethers, bonds, contracts, oath agreements, what you got spinning in your field. Go in and look and have a conscious conversation of what it is that you're experiencing and what it is that you would like to experience.
Mhm.
So, yeah, yeah,
Okay, great. Yeah, I was gonna ask you what how people could get a hold of you
yeah,
and
girl. And then
stuff like
you can
that.
follow me on all the things. I'm on Instagram, TikTok at Be Limitless Now.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, awesome. I'll be sure to follow you as
yeah,
well. So
girl. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. And then I do have a closing wisdom question that I ask everybody. It's basically
Uh-huh.
just if you have found one truth about our divinity, what would that truth be?
If I found one truth about what?
Our divinity.
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
know. One thing I can share is that if you and your audience knew how powerful and how amazing and what a powerhouse they truly are, man, this world would change just like that. And
Mhm.
stepping into your powerhouse, and what is that? That is your heart being authentic, being showing up with compassion and wisdom, and yeah, and being the change that you would like to see. That's stepping into your divinity.
All right.
Yeah.
I love that. No, yeah, definitely. That's one thing I try and tell people too, is like my main message really to people is just like you are more powerful than you know. So
Girl, if people really understood
Mhm.
how powerful they truly are,
Mhm.
I've just got a full body surge of energy that flushed through. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it, but you were taught and told and made to believe that you aren't that you got to look
Right.
outside of yourself to get approval, to get, to be a good human, get the right answers, get the right job, be a good American, all of the things.
Mhm.
And once you take that, take that step and go within
Mhm.
and really awaken your true divine self, girl, you are
Mhm.
unstoppable because you connect with everything that in God's creation, everything,
Mhm.
and you know that, hey, I can just shift it, I can change it, I can maneuver it because I'm the creator of this
Yeah.
reality. I am that of what I'm looking for. I am all that in a bag of chips.
Mhm. Right. No, I literally it was interesting. Most recent psilocybin journey I went on.
Yeah,
My most recent journey was basically I saw how when we're fully aligned with our source within us, we literally like things move around us.
yeah,
Everything moves around us, and that was one thing that I saw in that journey. And trying to, my intention was really to figure out more about energy, and to get rid of this lack vibration I had for the longest, like most of
yeah,
my life. It took me this whole year, but I finally feel like it's gone. Like that lack vibration is just not there anymore.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. Once you start operating out of the prosperity mindset that, because money is only the energy. It's only
Mhm.
you can attract it, just manifest it and attract it just like that when you become
Mhm.
the energy of it. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it took me. So I'm
It's
telling you,
amazing.
took me sitting with numerous negative bank accounts, and like
Yes.
just consciously changing that vibration within me, because I felt it, just the contraction you get when you see bills, or when you see anything to do with money.
Right. Right. But that's also
So,
a program. We've been taught that. We've been taught that.
mhm.
So yeah. Girl, you're amazing. I'm so grateful that I got to spend this time with you today, for sure.
Yeah, me too. Same to you. You are definitely amazing. I love the energy. Like, it's just so amazing,
Yes,
to
we'll have to we'll
be in
connect on
this
all
vibration.
we'll connect on all the things, and if there's anything that I can do to further assist you or anybody, please reach out, please contact me, and I would love to come back on the show, or whatever you got
Yeah,
going. I'd love to be a
definitely.
part of it.
There's a few people I've had on more than once. So I'll definitely be glad to have you on again. So,
Oh,
but yeah.
awesome, girl. Well,
All
thank you so
right.
much. You have a great day.
Yeah, we'll end it on there, and you guys have a great rest of your day.
Yes.